Warriors of price action and guardians of fundamentals, welcome to Retail Recon. On today's Rules of Engagement mission, we are talking about when to reinforce a winning position and when to retreat and reduce size. You'll learn when, why, and how to add to your winners or pull back on weakening trades, building directly on your position sizing foundation. By the end of this episode, you'll have a simple protocol for adding to winners and pulling risk of losers without guessing. So gear up and let's go to work. Think of scaling as your force management protocol in active trades. It's a set of rules on how you reinforce confirmed advances and extract from faltering positions while staying within the risk limits. I intentionally use the term rules because I'm a big proponent of rules-based trading. Clear rules of engagement pull emotion out of the decision and protect you from yourself. Fear, greed, and FOMO are very real. I'm pretty sure every trader can attest to that. If you want to trade a little for fun, that's fine. Just make sure those trades are a small minority and always stay inside your risk limits. Remember from the initial episodes, you will be wrong much more often than you will be right. For that reason, when the market finally does move in your favor, you want a system that lets you press your advantage without blowing up. And on the flip side, remember Warren Buffett's rule number 1, never lose money. And his rule number 2, never forget rule number 1. Although he's the OG of value investing, this absolutely applies to trading as well. You have to control the downside, manage your risk. Scaling is the system that allows you to achieve both goals. It helps you to protect your capital and it evolves your exposure in a dynamic environment. Remain static and you risk being overexposed or underpowered. If you never scale, you either leave money on the table or burn it. Without scaling, drawdowns amplify and breakouts underperform. Capital efficiency crumbles either way. If you remember nothing else from this episode, remember this. Beginners stay static and pray for a home run. Pros scale based on real-time battlefield intel. One quick side note. You will never be able to match the amount of intel or speed of execution the big institutions have. So delete that thought from your mind. Your advantage lies in other areas. First, you as the retail trader can move quietly. Your orders of 1, 10, 50 shares don't even pop up on anyone's screen. You can slip in and out without anyone noticing. Small unit tactics at its best. Second, you are flexible and not rule-bound. You can enter a trade in the next minute if your system says so, and you don't need anyone's approval. Large institutions need to justify everything with committees and mandates. Don't try to beat institutions at their own game. Use these advantages inside your rules-based plan. Let's break down the operational framework behind scaling. First, let's talk about adding to the position or reinforcing. Under my 210 rule from episode 4, I risk at most 2% of my account and start with at most 10% of my capital in a single trade. That's the initial position. From there, two obvious questions arise. When to add and how much? When is a very difficult question to answer and it falls completely to the individual trader and their trading style. Generally speaking, you start adding when the position starts working in your favor, regardless of which direction you made the bet. Yes, bet is the correct word to use here. You're making a bet on direction. You can't predict the future, you can only structure a bet with defined risk. Unless you're a long-term investor focusing on fundamentals, where the only thing you care about is where the business will be in 20 years. So how do you assess if the trade is going your way? The obvious answer is a move in price in the direction you want. Here I strongly suggest you have an objective metric that determines the price move is adequate. Have your rules of engagement in place. Don't add based on a hunch. You need intel that confirms strength. Never chase or average down. That is gambling, not scaling. What can those metrics be? Your confirmation could be a new higher high, a break above resistance, a moving average crossover, a move of a set ATR amount, or a price surge backed up by volume. If you're unfamiliar with those terms, don't worry, they'll be addressed in future episodes. Personally, I often use ATR as a metric. I start paying attention when a stock moves about half an ATR in my favor. If momentum is real, I want to load up quickly so I'm meaningfully sized in the move. This is theory, of course, and since I'm not a machine, I make mistakes like everyone. With experience, those mistakes become less frequent and less costly. In episodes of Recon reports where I debrief actual trades, you can see everything in action. Now that we know when, we need to know how much. The answer for me is relatively simple because my rules of engagement are clear. I add in blocks of 1/4 to 1/3 of my initial position until I've doubled my opening size. After that, no more adding. There is an important caveat here. The trade needs to be profitable and the position overall, including the additions, has to conform with my 2% risk rule. For example, if my overall account value is 10,000, under the 210 rule, my initial position will be capped at 1,000 with max risk of 200. Now suppose the trade goes my way. I'll add in increments of 1/3 until I double the position to 2,000. But if, and only if, my overall risk remains at 200. What that means in practice is the stop orders are adjusted with every addition. They move together with the price. This is also known as trailing, and an effective way to do this is by using sell trailing stop orders if your broker supports them. Now let's talk about retreat, scaling down your size. This will normally happen when your trade starts to fall apart. It will happen, so you need to have an evacuation plan ready. You can decide either to evacuate slowly in portions or run for the hills. There's a time and place for both, but in this episode we'll focus on gradual exit. This is your pullback protocol, and it should be an essential part of your rules of engagement. You should start considering your pullback plan as soon as you see price action going against you. Ask yourself, is this normal volatility for this stock? Did something structurally change? Has my original thesis broken down? Those answers decide where your stop goes, before you enter, not after you feel pain. As a general rule, similar to reinforcement, I often use ATR as a base metric. About 2 times ATR for a normal setup, max 1.5 for low conviction, and up to 3 times ATR for high conviction trades. But don't forget, regardless of where the stop is placed, the 2% risk rule still applies. Higher ATR means each share carries more risk, so position size must shrink to keep risk under 2%. I also use other metrics to determine where to start pulling back, such as support levels, moving averages, high increases in volume, and similar. Important to know the obvious. You can also start pulling back while the trade is going your way. You don't only pull back when you're wrong. You can scale out into strength by placing limit sells at key levels like resistance, locking in profits while the trade is still alive. This is a lesson I should remind myself of. Just watch the latest Recon Reports episode on my Duolingo trade. Every trade is different, so I don't advocate for a blanket approach. Assess what would be the best course of action for that particular trade and execute on it. If price moves against me and I want to reduce, I often cut about half. If price is moving in my favor and I'm taking profits, I might scale out in thirds. Remember rule number 1, never lose money. I'd rather miss on the gains than further my losses. 2 important caveats. First, if your setup is broken, for example, you based your trade on moving averages and that line is broken, I would close the trade completely. If the core reason for the trade is gone, the trade is KIA. In my rules of engagement, the thesis has to stay intact throughout the life of the trade. Second, I scale down only on profitable trades. For losing trades, I don't scale down. I let my pre-planned stop close the full position. When I enter a trade, I always place a stop for the whole position. Only if the trade turns profitable will I scale down, either with stops or limits. Scaling is about managing profits, not rescuing losers. The main objective for me with scaling is to secure the profits. Before we wrap up, remember, do not blindly copy what others are doing, including this channel. Your situation, costs, and objectives can be very different. You now know what scaling is and how to use it. Scaling is simply adjusting your position size, up or down, according to your rules, not your emotions. Test and adjust your rules of engagement until you find a system that works for you and you're comfortable using on a consistent basis. If you found value in this mission, lock in your support by liking, subscribing, and following our movement. Thanks for standing watch with me today, and until next time, trade smart, risk sharp, and stay on target.